The thoracic diaphragm is a sheet of internal skeletal muscle that extends across the bottom of the thoracic cavity. Essentially, it separates the thoracic cavity containing the heart and the lungs from the abdominal cavity and performs an important function in respiration. The thoracic cavity arises from four embryonic components, the first being the septum transversum, followed by the pleuroperitoneal membranes, and then the dorsal mesentery of the esophagus, and finally, the muscle growing out of the lateral body wall. Septum transversum is a thick mass of cranial mesenchyme that gives rise to the parts of the thoracic diaphragm and the anterior mesentery of the foregut in an adult. It originally arises as the most superior part of the mesenchyme on day 22 of embryonic development. At day 27 of development, there is some significant head folding, as we can see here, due to the massive growth of the mural tube. At this stage, the septum transversum is folded underneath the developing heart at the level of the cervical vertebrae. It then picks up innervation from the third to fifth cervical spinal nerves, which eventually becomes the precursor of the phrenic nerve. During subsequent weeks, the posterior of the embryo grows much faster than its anterior counterpart, and this results in an apparent descent of the anteriorly located septum transversum, as shown over here. At week 8 of development, the septum transversum can be found at the level of the thoracic vertebrae. During the descent of the septum, the phrenic nerve is carried along and assumes its descending pathway. The superior part of the septum transversum gives rise to the central tendon of the diaphragm. This becomes the origin of the myoblasts that invade the pleuroperitoneal folds, which results in the formation of the muscular diaphragm. The inferior part of the septum transversum is invaded by the growing lever, which cleaves away from the gut tube. The position of the septum transversum as the most superior mesenchyme before the folding of the neural tube speaks to its early nature as a reference point for the generation of tissues. The septum transversum merges with tissues that form the pleura and the peritoneum. Therefore, in the fully developed adult, changes in the diaphragm will affect the function of lungs and the gut tube. The pleuroperitoneal membrane merges with the dorsal mesentery of the esophagus and septum transversum. The posterior esophageal mesentery merges with the previous structures to form the middle part of the diaphragm. The nerves go to the diaphragm by passing through the pleuropericardial membranes, and that explains the anatomical location of the nerves on the pericardium. In the adult, the whole diaphragm is innervated by the paired phrenic nerves C3, C4, and C5. In the developmental stages, the growing diaphragm drags the phrenic nerves down from the cervical region to the thoracic region. So, clinically, irritation to the diaphragm frequently presents as neck and shoulder pain due to the synergy that exists between the cervical cord and the phrenic nerves. Similarly, cases of rupture of the spleen or the gallbladder are well known to cause referred pain to the shoulders. Thanks for watching.